better than they have in the past. Even Jeff Janis, he ran a few bad routes last week, or at least one bad route last week in that win versus Chicago. This week he had a few catches too, so it's nice to see that production going around, and we know, as this offense improves, and even when it does get back to normal, any offense when it's on top of its game, some bad things are going to happen. You can't let, especially that last play of the game when Davante Adams didn't maybe come back the way he should have, didn't really look for the ball on a 4th down and 3 situation. Don't let that eat you alive. Don't pin that loss solely on Davante Adams. I think it's something you just got to build that. Last week the Packers played 2 good quarters of offensive football. This week they played 3. Hopefully next week they play 4, and then their confidence is fully back up to normal. Some of the stuff that I would like to see, a little bit more of that running game going with your traditional running backs. You can't solely rely on the passing all the time. Even kind of like today, I think, again, 32 points, you should be able to rely on that. But on some of these drives where maybe you want to milk it and you don't want Rodgers to run and maybe put himself in a bad situation, or if it's a third and 1, and maybe the best option for you is to line him up 5 wide, I'd like to see hopefully maybe Niles Davis or Don Jackson, or even if it is Ripkowski, if you can trust them a little bit more on those short yards runs. And I think Ripkowski too, and I know Rudy's probably going to be pissed that, we have a John Kuhn Jr. here, lining up as a halfback and kind of taking shotgun delays. But if you have that defense spread and you just keep your head down and run and get those few yards you need, I think that will be nice too. But again, some things to build on, and one of the things for those young corners too is try your best to make sure you hit on those opportunities to get turnovers. He said, well, that's why good defenses make those turnovers. Man, oh man, the opportunities that Gunter and Clinton Dix had at the end of the game to potentially end it, really, I don't think they were as close as maybe. I mean, they could have been intercepted, but they weren't maybe as close as they looked. I mean, even look tonight on the touchdown drive that the Dallas Cowboys sent that game into overtime. On one play that Jenkins for the Eagles could have made an interception, and that one kind of basically went right to him, unable to secure the ball, incomplete pass. We're moving on there. And in that regard too, he's a pretty good corner. Couldn't trap the ball under. Sometimes it's hard. A lot of times that's why they always say too that's why they play cornerback. That's why. What other good games we had today? Oakland Raiders, man alive, 23 penalties, an NFL record for penalties. But they still come away with the win. It was a hard-fought win. Almost ended up in a tie, which we did have a tie today. So we had 2 ties this week in the NFL. Or 2 ties in the past 2 weeks. But we could have had 2 ties this weekend. But Derek Carr hit Roberts with under 2 minutes to go in overtime to propel them into the victory. So it's kind of good to see this team. Traveling across country 2 weeks in a row, that was rough. I know people say that shouldn't matter. It does. I mean, anytime any one of us are thrown out of a routine, it's hard to break that habit, especially a lot of these teams too. Playing in London, you're playing a game that's basically a lot of times your body clock is saying that's 9 o'clock in the morning, even though it's 5 p.m. in London. It's a hard way to adjust. But the Raiders did it. Came away with that win. They had opportunities too to win that in regulation earlier in overtime with Janikowski missing a few field goals. For one, he missed that one at end of regulation. Just barely missed. Hooked it left but then I think overcompensated it on the next kick and then sailed that one too. That was a really bad miss in the second kick. But how about them Raiders? 6-2, right up there, going punch for punch, blow for blow with the Denver Broncos right now. And I think from what I see, I mean, if you take that Raiders offense or mix it in with the Broncos defense, you create some sort of super team right there. But I think right now with the way the teams are playing, I'm going to give a slight edge to the Oakland Raiders because I think if they played, the Broncos and Raiders played each other at the moment right now, and hell, they could be playing next week. I didn't really look that far ahead, but I think you're looking at if the Raiders put up, and I know it's hard to do against that Bronco defense, don't get me wrong, but if they put up a quick 21 points, 21 to 24 points, it's going to be hard for that Broncos offense to win the game, especially without C.J. Anderson right now. I think I'd give that slight edge. I mean, there was a point in that game, when the Broncos played the Chargers today, it was 27-19. The Chargers had a chance to potentially score a touchdown, go for two, and tie that game up at the end of it, but unable to get it done. But there was a stretch in that game, I believe, they showed his last 10 passes, whatever. He was 3 for 10 with 3 interceptions, and one of those interceptions were returned for a touchdown. Again, that game I was watching too, I was flipping back and forth, and I think the Chargers might have got a defensive touchdown as well. So, in all intents and purposes, you can say, well, just take a touchdown off of each of them. But still, I guess at the end of the day, you look that they had an opportunity to lose that game, and that's where I'd probably give that slight edge to the Oakland Raiders at the time. The hometown team in this area, the Indianapolis Colts, getting kind of wild, 30-14 in Indianapolis. You had Alex Smith that went out of the game twice due to injury. I think concussion kind of fully caught up to him at the end of the game there. But for a lot of that game, you had Nick Foles being the quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs, and they were still able to kind of easily handle the Indianapolis Colts. They were never in the game by any means. So, as far as the Packers are concerned going into next week's game, I think you're looking at the Colts that can potentially put up a lot of points if that pass rush doesn't get there, because they do have some good wide receivers, but the offensive line for the Indianapolis Colts is not known to be a good offense. So this is where a lot of those guys, Peppers and hopefully Matthews will be healthy next week, that they can go in there and get the job done, put some heat on Andrew Luck. He's a beaten and battered man right now, and again, I think the past 3 games, or this game going in for the Packers, you can say the past 2 games, the Packers with their offense improving, they haven't really played that good of a defense, and that's the same case as we're looking for against the Indianapolis Colts. Their corners are almost as depleted, if not more so, than the Green Bay Packers are, and just the rest of that, they don't have as good of a defensive line. Their linebacking core basically is led by Eric Walden, the backup phenom back in 2010 when the Packers won Super Bowl 45. So there's a lot of trouble in Indianapolis right now, as they are 3-5. The MVP for the Indianapolis Colts on Sunday very well could be Pat McAfee, probably the coolest punter in the NFL. He used to be probably overshadowed. I don't know how old McAfee is, but by Kluey, kind of the biggest douche punter in the NFL. I think if you look at McAfee, probably can look like a douche himself, but it's still pretty funny to watch. When he does his coffin kicks, which he can do pretty good. So if it gets into a field position battle, with Shum, he's been punting better as of late, but still can have those bad moments. You're playing a good punter that can do the chip shot or do the coffin corner. He'll do his little chip shot golf celebration when he does so. So that's one thing they have looked forward to. Obviously, also, they're kind of almost like the Raiders back in the day. Then they have Adam Vinatieri, one of the most accurate kickers in NFL history. But with that, we'll wrap up this week's show. You can tune in or follow us, all week long on Facebook at facebook.com/ST920, on Twitter at ST920 at twitter.com. And you can also, again, listen to these shows, too. If you missed us today, you can listen to us on YouTube. Just kind of look up Sports Talk 920 in the search icon on YouTube. And, again, on our blog at sportstalk920.blogspot.com. Until next time, I'm Mike Goodman. Thank you all for listening to this week's episode of Sports Talk 920. Good day now.